This video was made mostly so I don't forget how to do this myself. I am a certified newbie and was struggling to get this all figured out. I used these 3 videos as guides and I picked some qualities from each that fit what I wanted to do. So if you're struggling to import 2D characters with layers and animate them with them layers without using skeleton rigging, this video may help you too. I will probably also go into my character customization screen as well, but that will come later. Before we begin, I highly recommend using a 2023 version of Unity. I'm using 2023.2. There are some annoying bugs. For example, the menu doesn't always pop up when right-clicking, but since I use one central animation controller or animator, creating clips is a huge hassle with other versions like 2022 or Unity 6. Because the screen that pops up, there's no scroll bar, so you have to wait as it slowly scrolls to the bottom of all your animations in order to create a new clip. But since 2023.2 has that scroll bar, it's a lot quicker. So moving on, when you create a new 2D project, you want to import your sprite sheets. I'm using the same assets as Jacqueline, which she got from Shooby Booby, but I'm importing them a bit differently. These assets are great as they can be free if used personally, but they're also quite cheap for commercial use as well. I think right now they're about $4 for each pack. Yeah. Shooby Booby sprite sheets are also formatted 32 by 32, so it's really easy to slice and import and layer. Exactly. Okay, so first thing you want to do is create a new project and make sure the editor version is 2023. Make sure you choose 2D. You can name your project if you like and then click Create Project. But since I already have this done, I'm just going to open up my own. Now we're going to want to import our sprite assets, which you can see I have already done as well. But to do that, you can simply drag and drop, boom, boom, like that. But since I already have, I won't do that. You might need a minute or so all of your assets can load. But once it's in, as you can see, I only did characters in separate. Separate has all of them separately. I did the body. I think I did hair, so I'll do some clothes now. Now, as you can see, yours might be imported already kind of like this, or it might not be. If you look here, it's super pixelated, so you want to make sure that here in the inspector, on the right hand side, that the sprite mode is multiple. It's single if instead of a sprite sheet, you have a single sprite. So make sure this is multiple, this can stay, this can stay. Go down here for filter mode, change it to point. For compression, change it to none. And for this sprite sheet in particular, we're changing the max size to 4096 and apply. Then we're going to open the sprite editor and you can see it automatically sliced super close to the body, but instead of doing it like this, since the sprite sheet was organized 32 by 32, we're going to slice it 32 by 32, so layering is a lot easier. Slice, and then you can see the white boxes are a lot bigger here. Now we can apply, and you see the bottom, it made the change to. Now we're going to need to slice all of our clothes, skins, hairs, accessories, everything the same way until they're the same 32 by 32. As you can see, I did these guys but haven't done these guys yet. But once you have that all done, you can join in for the next part, which is creating a player object. Now to create a player object, you're going to right click and just create empty, and you can name it player. Now to this player object, you're going to want to add a rigid body 2D. Since we're working 2D, you're going to change the gravity scale to 0, and the freeze rotation Z we're going to check as well. Now gravity scale to 0. If it's not 0, I'll show you. Change that to 1, and we'll play, and now our sprite will just fall off the screen. Bye. So that will happen, and to avoid that from happening, we change it to 0, and if we play again, our sprite stays in place. Now we're also going to add an animator component and just leave it as it is right now. We'll get back to it, but we will need it right here. Next up, we're going to add 3 more empty game objects, and you're going to make a layer for each layer your sprite will have. So skin will be 1, top could be 1, bottoms, hair, shoes, earrings, hats, and all of them should be separate if you want them to be able to be worn at the same time. So you could do dress, but you could also just do tops, since if you wear a dress, the bottom can't be seen anyway. And I'll just do hair. So inside each of these, 1, 2, 3, we're gonna add one thing. We need a sprite renderer, and we're going to leave it empty. So if you want your character to be in the same costume the entire game, you don't need to leave it empty. But if you want to be able to customize your character and change the layers out, then you will need it to be empty. For example, even though I have all these, since the sprite renderers are empty, you can't see anything in the scene. But for my player up here, I put the body in, I put the hair in, I didn't put the dress in. So let me put a dress in right now. Boom. And if I make it seen, you can see my character here. Now since we're right here, I want to show. So our size is 4096. If it was 2048 instead, you see that the hair is super pixelated and ugly. If we have the beautiful hair from the sprite sheet, we want that same beautiful hair up here too. So again, what needs to be done before we start all the animations is making sure that all of our sprites are loaded correctly. An easy way to do it is just to highlight, and then you can change all of these at once. Make sure it's multiple instead of by linear points. No compression, 4096, apply. And then you can edit them accordingly instead of automatic by cell size 32 by 32. And this can change depending on your sprite sheets, but if you're using the same one as me, it can be exactly this. Okay. Next up, we're going to open up our animator up here. Boom. As you can see, I already have some stuff done, but we're going to do it all together right now as well. So as you can see in layers right here, you're going to add as many layers as you have. 1, 2, 3. So I have skin, hair, and we can change this to top. But these guys should be the same as this, just to keep it nice and organized, and so you know which one's which. And since I used dress up here, I'm actually going to change this one to dress. And once you add your layers, like so, you're gonna hit this bar, make sure additive is on and the weight is 1. So additive and the weight instead of 0 should be 1 for each and every one, every single one. And once that's done for all of your layers, we can go into parameters. And if you create a new one, it will look like this for now, and that's completely fine. So we're going to go into parameters, create 3 variables, 1 boolean, which is true or false. So that true or false is moving, so we're checking whether we're moving or not. And 2 floats, which are decimals basically. So the 2 decimals are gonna take our horizontal and vertical movement. Now we're gonna keep all what we did, but go back down into our project directory. So next up, we're going to go into assets, and we're going to create a resources folder like this. So you're going to right click, create folder, and name it resources like so. Then inside of the resources folder, you're going to create an animations folder. So right click, create folder. If it doesn't show up, you can always just search folder and it will appear like that. And name it animations, player animations, your choice. Just remember what you name it. And then inside, we're going to create a player animator. So we're going to right click, create player or animator controller. And this is what we need. As you can see, it brings us another one of these guys. And you can rename it player animator. Then we're going to go into our player, into the animator component inside of our player, and drag our player animator right there. And when you do that, for me, it switched over to the animation screen, and you can see all the animations I currently have. If you use a new animator, you can see that it just has to begin animating player, create an animation clip. So when creating animations, you always have to be sure that the player with the animator controller is selected. I'll just delete this since I have this one. Nice. So since we have our player sprite selected and we're on our animation screen, we can start to add some animations. So let me go back into hair and I'll do braids. So we're gonna click this name right here and we're gonna scroll down to create new clip. You probably won't have to scroll down, it might be right up here, or it will be the create new clip over here. We're gonna create new clip, go into your animations folder, and you're gonna create a folder for the specific layer you're working on. So you can see I have hair, dress, skin, the same hair, dress, skin that was over here. And you want to go into that folder to make your animation. Now the naming of the animations are extremely important. You want to name it by the layer first. So since I'm working on hair, it will be hair. Then you're going to be a then you're going to add a descriptor for the actual layer or object. I'm working on brown braided hair. Since there's different styles of hair and different colors, I use the style first and then the colors are numerical. So I'll do braids, 0. Then the action, I'm working on walk, so I'll do walk. And the direction, the first one is walking down, so I'll walk down. And each one of your animations should follow this naming criteria. So the layer, the type and color, if necessary, the action, and the direction. And we're going to save, and this is going to open up a new one right here. Now when this new screen opens, you want to make sure your samples, I use 12 as a default, but make sure every single animation has the same number here. If it's not the same, the animations will be out of sync. And that took me a bit to figure out. So I'm saying this now, make sure these are the same. Can add property, go into the layer and find the sprite renderer on the specific layer. Since we're working on hair, we're in the hair. Then inside the sprite renderer, find sprite. Now since I used 12 samples, it opens up 12, and I just delete this one. If I use 7, will it work perfectly? Maybe. I just thought of it this moment. Since we're gonna copy from 0 to 7 and paste up here. Does it work perfectly? I don't know. I'll leave it at this. And this is an animation made for walking down braids black. And we do the same thing for each and every one. I find it easier to go down the colors with the same direction and then change directions. But for the sake of showing, I'll change directions first. So up next will be up. I'll try. And then it will be right. I'm trying to see if 7 works perfectly fine, because if it does, I am an idiot. And then we're going to use a left. Now, since all of our animations were created in the hair folder, you should be able to see the animations that you made here. So we're going to need both idle and walk animations. The pack or the sprite sheets that I use don't have an idle animation, so I make my own by just keeping it as the first frame of the animation. So there, I just delete all but the first one, and that's my idle animation. Not really an animation, but it's necessary to have animations for idle, so this is what I do. I forgot. And now, inside of our animator, we're going to go into our layer. So make sure if you're working on hair, you're in the hair layer. I'm just in new layer so we can see all together. You're gonna right click, create state from new blend tree. And this is going to be our idle state. Now we're going to do the same thing, create state from new blend tree, and this is going to be our walk. Now we're going to go into our idle. So you can see we're in our layer, in idle. We're going to click the blend tree and make it a 2D simple directional. Now for the parameters, we want horizontal and vertical. And we want to add 4 motion fields like so. And these 4 motion fields will take care of the 4 directions we have. So we're going to drag, since this is idle, idle down, idle left, idle right, idle up. It doesn't need to be in the same order, but keep in mind whichever order you put it in, you want these numbers to be correct. So for down, since you're going down, y should be -1, x should be 0. For left, since you're going to the left, x should be -1, y is 0. To the right and up is opposite, so right is +1x, up is +1y. So this will be the same for all of them. I always do it in the same order because it's alphabetical and it's easy to remember this. And now we go back to our new layer and go to walk and do the exact same thing. So make sure it's 2D simple directional, horizontal and vertical, 4 motion fields. Drag your down, left, right, up, and make it -1, -1, 1. And we can go back to the main layer now. Now here we're going to make 2 transitions, a transition from idle to walk and a transition from walk to idle. So we're going to right click, make new transition to walk, right click, make transition to idle, and we're going to click the transition from idle to walk first. We're going to uncheck has exit time. We're going to drag, this straight to 0. If I didn't drag it to 0, my animations would be out of sync as well. So in order to make it in sync, I just dragged it to 0 and it works fine. And lastly, we're going to add a condition, is moving true. So since we're moving from idle walk, is moving should be true. Similarly, moving from walk to idle, no exit time. Bring this all the way back to 0. And is moving should be false. Now before we can test that this all works, we need to add a script. So we're going to go to assets. You need to make a scripts folder, so you right click, create folder, scripts, and inside scripts we're going to create a player movement script. So right click, create C# script. Now this script was adapted from I think both Jacqueline and Sebastian's script. So credit goes to them. Here. I'll also paste this in the comment section so you don't need to copy it all or type it all out. But to explain it, we're going to need public float speed, the 2D rigid body, a vector 3, and an animator. Now this rigid body and this animator, they're going to be the same rigid body and animator we have right here. As you can see later, we're going to drag this right here. So if you want to drag it now, you can. In your script, grab your player movement script and drag it right into your player object. And if you check in your player movement script, you can see we can change the value of speed to whatever speed we want. And that is due to our player speed here being public. So if it's private, you can't see it here, but if it's public or serializable, which we'll go over later, you can see it in your project. Now for start, this just initializes our rigid body and animator to our rigid body and animator here. For fixed update, it gets the horizontal and vertical movement, and then we actually set is moving true and add the movement down here. So if the movement is not 0, moving is true, and then we set the horizontal and vertical movement, else moving is false. And up here we call move character, which actually has the position that we're moving to. And this is where we use the speed value right here. Now after you either type or paste all of this, you're going to save it, and we're going to go back to your project. After you go back, it will probably need a few seconds to update everything, but once you have that all updated, you can play. Set your speed first, and then you can play. And then you should be able to walk around all nicely. Next video, we'll probably go over actually switching out the costumes and being able to do that, but that's going to be a big video because you also need UI as well. To show you what the end project can look like, so this is the real project that I'm working on. If you press play, I'm not quite done with the screen yet. The preview doesn't work, but you can add, change the colors, remove, I'm not done with the hair yet either. And do everything like this. Yeah. If you have any questions, feel free to write it in the comments and I'll get to you as best as I can. I am not a certified professional at this, so if you have a better way of doing things, please let me know because I am so tired. But yeah.